coming to you live from the heart of the free state of New Hampshire. This is The Independents with Carla Garrick. And now, here's your host, Carla Garrick.
Hi guys, and welcome back to The Independents. I still want to do the shimmy, so maybe I will just make that part of the entire show. But welcome back. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Today feels like slightly maybe the first cold day where I was like, I need to grab a coat. So the reality is we're in it now. It's winter time. We have daylight savings. It's getting dark at 4:30, which means what? It means we have to mindfully prepare for things like SADS and depression and all of those things. And how do we counteract those things? We get out of the house, get into nature, make sure you're nourishing yourself well and getting enough sleep. So welcome back to today's The Independents. We're going to be doing a few things, but basically what I want to talk about today is the launch of the Free State Project's new website and the return of the pledge. And they made a really great little video that we'll show in a while. But also I want to mention that the Libertas dinner from the Josiah Bartlett Center took place on Monday night. That is the New Hampshire free market think tank. And it was fantastic to see. There were probably 350 people there. I knew more than I knew, say, 5 years ago, but still I didn't know the whole room. It was great to see our political season starting, including I got to meet John E. Sununu, as well as Scott Brown was there. So definitely seeing that sort of political jockeying that we are familiar with here in New Hampshire. And I'm going to give a little bit of an update on Right to Know. There was an essay from Newsmax. There was a crazy Elon tweet we might get time for. Want to talk a little bit about the Right to Know bills that will be coming up this session. And there was an article in Newsmax that if we get time, I would like to address. The headline to that was, it's time for the GOP to cut the libertarians loose. And the guy makes, various claims about libertarianism that I don't think were entirely sound. If we don't get to that one today, we will get to that one next time. And then I do want to talk about the state of free speech, kind of looking a little bit at the free speech court case that came out of Bow, New Hampshire, kind of give you guys a little bit of the lay of the land there. But first, and then we'll dive into this FSP update, I should mention, just so that this is on everyone's radar going forward, here in New Hampshire, we have a very unique political environment, including a very large state house with 400 state representatives. And it's very direct in the sense that, each rep represents maybe 3,000, 3,500 members. And because of the robust nature, we are also able here in New Hampshire to introduce constitutional amendments. And in the 20 or so years I've been in New Hampshire, 18 if we're technically not rounding up, we have passed 2 constitutional amendments. New Hampshire doesn't have a referendum process, so when you want to do big things and make big changes, you do it through a constitutional amendment, which has very high bars, right? Like it has to pass the House and Senate with 60%, it has to not be vetoed by the governor, and then it actually has to pass through the voters with 67%. So a high bar. And people have heard me talk over the years about, introducing a constitutional amendment for state sovereignty. We passed one for privacy. But I noticed Jonah Wheeler, who's a Democrat on the progressive side, who I actually like. He's got some great ideas. He's a firebrand. He, gets into trouble with his own party. I saw that he had introduced a constitutional amendment, and initially I was excited, but I have bad news. He wants to get rid of one of the things I think makes New Hampshire unique and gives us the live free or die flavor. And that is the fact that our state representatives, whether in the House or the Senate, only get paid $100 a year. I think the Senate actually gets $200 a year, plus both sides get their tolls paid. And why is that important? That is important because that means we have a citizens legislature, meaning it is truly people who go to the State House to serve our interests, not the interests of corporations or institutions or billionaires or oligarchs or whoever, but truly to serve us, you and me, the taxpayers of this great state. And so sadly, Jonah is trying to introduce a constitutional amendment to get rid of that. And what would that mean? That would mean we would become like every other state, basically where you can bribe your legislators. So I'm letting folks know now because I saw it come through the pass, and we need to stop this before it gets any traction, because I've even heard free staters and people who should know better say things like, well, if only we could get paid better, then I would go to the State House. And I get it. We have actually lost good legislators over the years. Jim Forsyth, who passed away a couple of years ago due to a tragic accident, actually springs to mind. He was a great senator, and he had to leave because he had a family to support. I get it. But this is not the solution. What might be a solution? Why don't we allow people to actually adopt legislators as patrons and then just make them wear a pin, like literally have them be like at NASCAR with your sponsors on there. But make it separate to sort of this thing that we change in the Constitution. All right, so that's just a little heads up before we get into stuff here today. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Free State Project, which of course is a movement to attract libertarians and liberty lovers and independents to the great state of New Hampshire. Why New Hampshire? We have low taxes. In fact, we don't have a sales tax. We don't have a personal income tax. We now, thanks to the efforts of Free Staters working together with other people up at the State House, we don't have an interest and dividends tax. We have a nuclear plant. We have an appetite to expand nuclear. We have a robust economy. We have tourism. What does that mean? It means that people here are here to kind of serve. We have real estate opportunities and all that good stuff. So New Hampshire, about 20 years ago, was picked by the Free State to attract more people to New Hampshire. Craig Benson, who was the governor at the time, welcomed us with open arms. And you're even seeing people like our current governor, Kelly Ayotte, sort of mimicking our strategy by going out and starting to advertise in New York City, where the state actually just elected a actual socialist as mayor of New York City. I mean, a card-carrying self-declared socialist in what used to be viewed as the most capitalistic city in the world. So certainly parts of the Northeast are going south, but up here in New Hampshire, we're hopeful that's not going to be the case. So the Free State Project just redid their website. I serve on the board there, just redid the website. And one of the things that they've done is they brought back the pledge. So the pledge was a way to encourage people to sign up so that we would have what we now in marketing call top of the funnel. 20 years ago, we didn't have the terms for this, but a way to basically reach your constituents. And then under leadership in the last 5 years or so, it was kind of done away with. And I'm glad to see it's coming back. Why am I mentioning this to you guys, especially if you're watching this in your home in Manchester? Because you can sign up now for the Free State Project as well, because the pledge now applies to anyone who has the solemn intent to live in New Hampshire and who is willing to exert their fullest practical effort towards the creation of a society in which the maximum role of government is the protection of individual life, liberty, and property. And if that sounds right to you, you are a Free Stater, and you can go to fsp.org and sign the pledge. If you're not ready to pledge yet, but you live in New Hampshire and you're kind of liberty curious, sign up for the newsletter right there at fsp.org. It's right there on the home page now. Start to get the newsletter, start to get a sense what we're about, and then join us. I want to show you guys this great video that Rhainita Sussman put together. She is a mover who moved here from California, very accomplished young lady. I shouldn't call her a young lady, let's say a lady. Her background is she worked on food, on the Food Network, on cooking shows, and we are really, really lucky to get someone like her to move here and to come raise her guinea fowls here with the rest of us in New Hampshire. So without further ado, here's the video.
The Revolutionary War, it started right here in Ware, New Hampshire, because there was a tax on these trees that the king said were his. A whole bunch of farmers and mountain men, they said, leave us alone, or we will fight you till the death.
The Torch of Liberty was born in New Hampshire, and it still burns in New Hampshire. The ideas of 1776, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have been forgotten across America. But a remnant exists, and we are returning home to the birthplace of American liberty. Over the last generation, thousands and thousands have made the move, concentrating those who seek liberty and reinforcing the native live free or die spirit of New Hampshire to build a free state.
Libertarians had not been making political progress. And so I came up with this idea of identifying a state. A bunch of us kind of get together and find the state that's most friendly to libertarians, where we can have the biggest impact. And then we all move there and get active.
There's massive, massive opportunity here.
There is a live free or die mentality here.
I think that law enforcement should only be focused on protecting people's life, liberty, and property.
When you move here, you are shocked at how smart everybody else is. You might be the smartest person where you're from, but once you move to New Hampshire, everybody is an expert on crypto, on guns, on economics, on philosophy. It's just so fascinating to learn from all of these different perspectives.
Getting to meet people, just that level of welcome home, and anytime you need help with anything, people always raise their hand like, oh, so you want to learn about foraging for mushrooms, or hey, you want to learn about raising chickens.
We'll teach you how to shoot a gun if you've never shot a gun, right? We'll take you out and show you how to do all these things. Even if it's just to can your own food, actually remind you of how much power you actually have.
For my family, I think moving here has been great. I feel a lot better about raising a family here. It's just much more hospitable, and the culture and the lifestyle support it all. The quality of friends she's going to make, the school that we were able to get her into, she'll have lifelong friends, and they're all people that really value being here.
We have hundreds of different organizations and groups, that form around different interests. And I can find people who will work with me on the things that I'm really interested in. It's a totally different experience.
When COVID happened, our business took off, and our business took off because of this community. This community made us actually grow and be able to do what we're doing now.
For the first time, there's enough people with enough passion for us really to take it to the next level. We're going to have a record amount of Free Staters elected this session, so that's exciting.
We got 400 members in our state representatives here in New Hampshire. We've got a population of 1.3 million. It is real easy to heckle a bad politician in a local grocery store.
Actually, when I was running for state rep, the whole reason I got motivated is because, like, while I was in Massachusetts and I was watching how, like, New Hampshire didn't have lockdowns like Massachusetts had lockdowns, but you guys were way angrier than people in Massachusetts. And I'm like, that's the kind of fire that I love. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then, you know, I got up here and I was just watching, like, stuff happening at the State House and all the reps that came in like, the fall of 2020, like, when they all got elected. And then all of, like, the state of emergency reforms and all those things they were putting in place and, like, forgiveness for people that disobeyed the governor's lockdown orders. And then I looked into it and I was like, holy crap, there's 400 reps in this tiny little state?
There have been Liberty legislators in the New Hampshire House for going on 20 years. And in a way, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants because some of those people really went above and beyond to figure out how the system worked.
Key topics in mind.
When they talk about the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, we're the vigilantes.
The use of force against other people to do what you want them to do is not moral at all. And I guess my previous perspective was because of that, I don't want anything to do with government. I guess the shift in perspective I had was someone needs to be in government with that perspective to try to minimize the damage that it's doing. And so I feel like that's my role.
I've done some legislation on cryptocurrency. If you want to have an economy based on cryptocurrency, you need to make it easy for the average person to feel secure in using it. And that's where these institutions come in.
If you want to come here and you want to live on crypto, you know, we've got a guy who lives on crypto, does not use Federal Reserve notes.
I basically only use cryptocurrency as my money. I don't use banks. I'm living off of non-government money. Here in New Hampshire, I found, especially the Free State community, it's very easy to transact in cryptocurrency.
What kind of crypto today?
To BCH. I like to say that New Hampshire is like the Bitcoin of freedom movements, right? Because the more people buy into it, the more people believe in it, the stronger and more powerful it becomes.
I think people finally came to the understanding that if they want a better life for themselves, the same old plan of running a political candidate every 3 or 4 years or whatever isn't going to cut it. And being separated from other like-minded people isn't working. So coming together to the same geographic area, it's a proven concept now.
New Hampshire is the lifeboat. That's what we're building here. You can think of it like as an ark where we can see that the world is becoming less free to liberty. And we need to have a place on the planet where we preserve these ideas of liberty that are really part of the American heritage.
We're going to grow leaps and bounds, and I think we're well positioned to actually do it. We need more people. We need the people who are here to step up.
We can actually win. We can actually see a free society.
Every year, more individuals and families seeking to build liberty join us in the Free State. After one full generation, thousands of Free Staters, natives and newcomers to New Hampshire, continue shaping politics, creating culture, and building liberty institutions that will stand the test of time. The momentum continues, but we need more liberty pioneers like you to help us charge across the finish line. We are creating liberty in our lifetime. See you in the Free State.
All right, hey, welcome back. All right, that's a lot of camera work for me, but hopefully folks who are watching online were able to at least sort of generally see where it was and what it was. And for folks back home, I hope that gives you a better sense of the community we're trying to build up here. And again, you can go to fsp.org to find out more, to poke around there at this beautiful new website. And then go to fsp.org/calendar. That'll tell you what we have coming up at any given moment, and come out, come meet the community and see if you want to pledge to be part of, as Keith Emmon very aptly said, the ark that we are building here in New Hampshire to preserve liberties. And, so next I want to talk about this First Amendment case out of Bow, New Hampshire. And This sounds like the kind of thing that would have been free staters doing it, but indeed, I don't think it is. But basically, back in fall 2024, so last year this time, 4 parents wore XX pink little wristbands to a soccer match where there was a trans woman participating in a athletics sports. Now, those parents showed up. They didn't have signs. They weren't making a hoobala. They weren't verbally saying anything. They literally were just wearing these wristbands. Now, for people who follow the First Amendment case law over the years, there is a similar sort of case from back in the 60s, and I'm going to blank on the name right now, but it was a case where people were protesting the Vietnam War and they were wearing black armbands. And in that case, it was found that that was protected speech. So the inclination or the feeling, I think, if you're a consistent First Amendment student or someone who sort of understands the principles of the First Amendment, which is free speech, which in many ways can really be distilled down to the following. Are you free to speak your mind? So if you are not free to speak your mind, who is allowed to tell you that you are not allowed to speak your mind? So that's the very simple hack to think about free speech. Now, free speech is actually very unique to America, and I think it's part of our exceptionalism, right? Like this very vibrant, innovative, cutthroat, competitive place that is different to the rest of the world. And what we represent should actually be appreciated and valued, because that is actually where human thriving, striving, and innovation comes from, is being able to say, hey, this is what I think, and then allowing that marketplace of ideas to exist. So they wore these pink XX wristbands, and of course XX stands for the chromosomes for a female. A male is XY chromosomes. If you are like me and sometimes you need hacks to remember things, my husband doesn't like the way I explain it, but I always remember XX is woman because XY, the Y is the mutant, and men are mutants. That's half joking, but that's the way I remember it. So the school's response to those wristbands was to make the big hoopla, right? Like someone went over, they escalated, they said that they were protesting, the school's reaction to someone's actions was what was the problem, much like we saw during COVID mania, candidly, right? Where the reaction to the virus was worse than the virus itself. And what is that old saying? If the cure is worse than the symptoms, then you're doing it wrong. So we've been doing a lot of things really, really wrong. And that is why I'm hopeful that we can get more people to start to identify as independents, so that you can sort of claim this area where you can look at both sides and just call them all silly. And maybe we can get back to some common sense stuff, right? All right, so in September 2024, the parents, this is Anthony Foote, Nicole Foote, Kyle Fellers, and Eldon Rash, filed a lawsuit against the Bow School District and the superintendent. And they filed suit under First Amendment free speech violations. Then back in April, the New Hampshire judge denied the preliminary injunction and upheld the ban. So the school said, hey, you're not allowed to wear those wristbands at any of our sports meetings, right? And everyone was like, how do you have the right to say we're not allowed to do this? And then the school tried to apply the student speech policies, which are unconstitutional, by the way, but okay, that's a separate conversation, to the parents, and that's where the whole thing came in. So back in April, Judge Stephen McAuliffe denied the preliminary injunction and upheld the ban, saying it was reasonable to avoid a poisoned atmosphere. Now, anyone familiar with the First Amendment knows there's no exception for poisoned atmosphere or butt hurtness or hurt my feelings or I don't like that or whatever. The right to speak your mind is the right to speak your mind. What people need to know and learn and internalize is sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. So get over it. It's not such a big deal. Like everyone could be like, I don't know, 97.5% less sensitive. And the court in that decision back in April applied student speech rules to these adults, to these parents attending. So the oral arguments, so the parents appealed that case on First Amendment grounds, as they absolutely should. And that was heard early in November. So on November 5th, it had now been appealed all the way to the First Circuit. So that's a federal court down in Boston. And as of today, of course, there's no ruling. So we could probably expect a ruling in the next 6 to 8 weeks if we're lucky, or in, months and months and months and months, because of course the wheels of injustice turn very slowly. You know what doesn't turn slowly is the time on this show. So we're down to the last 2 minutes here. So I want to make sure I do cover this. If you're watching this on Wednesday, November 12th, I think, there is a meeting tonight that AFP is hosting in Concord. And that has to do with these social districts that we are looking at. What would those be? That would be taking sort of public areas like downtown Concord, by way of example, and turning it into sort of a social district where certain new rules or less rules might apply, including things like open container laws, where you would be able to walk around in a sort of pedestrian area with an open container. People who have been following me for a long time know I am anti-booze at this stage. There is no safe level of alcohol consumption. So I will not be attending this, but people should go listen. I do think what we should be looking at there is, hey, don't let them do anything with booze that they don't let you do with weed. Yes, fair is fair. And we should be looking at whether we can privatize in the true sense of the word, meaning not public owned, but actually maybe start to create a separate entity, some kind of corporation perhaps, and maybe people could buy into it, or the businesses there or something, but some way to start to actually push for true property rights that are privatized, so that we create more smaller units of things, decentralizing different things, so that you have smaller units controlling smaller parts, so that we have a safer, healthier, more prosperous society. All right, I'm up against my time for today. That one went really quick. Thank you for joining me. I will, of course, be back here again next week. In the meanwhile, if you need to find any of my content, you can find it under my name, Carla Gericke, and at carlagericke.com. Thanks, guys.